All right, Ben the Libertarian joins us from beautiful Wheatland, California. Hey, Ben.
Hey. Jack, you made the statement that, if those Australians recorded the conversation and broadcast it, that would be a fairly minor charge.
Mm-hmm.
I happen to know people, have friends who have been charged with felonies, who have been charged with misdemeanors, who have spent months in jail because they recorded people in public. They had a video camera and were hit in a public space. People knew they had a video camera,
right,
and were charged with wiretapping. I've had friends who were the one friend I'm thinking of who spent months in jail. He recorded a phone conversation asking for a public comment on a story about a police officer throwing a student in a cafeteria into a table over basically nothing, and he was charged with wiretapping, even though he's trying to get a comment for a blog. So, that's happening in America. Who knows what's, going to happen in Australia?
Hey, did you hear my little story about the hands-free voice texting, which I didn't even know that was the law, but...
Oh, yeah.
I got a ticket on that. I mean, you've fought various things before. Is there any point to me going and fighting it and at least saying my piece? Does that do anything? Or should I just pay it and, write a letter to my legislator and keep bitching on the air about how stupid it is?
You should do all of them.
Well, do I accomplish anything other than making myself feel good to stand there in a mostly empty courtroom with a couple other, malcontents and say, this is wrong?
I think you do. Now, for fighting it, really, like you said, there's really not a lot that you can do. I mean, the judge and the officer can just do what they want, essentially. But there is value in, I know it will take up your time, and that sucks, and that can be wasteful, but in slowing the system down a little bit. I mean, the whole system works on people I'm not going to fight it.
That's true.
Going to go along with it. And if more people would just go through the effort of forcing the government to go through the motions of proving their case, rather than just people taking plea deals or going, here, I'll just pay the fine and move on, things would change quite dramatically. I mean, even though I lost in my court case, I feel really happy that I forced the government to pull out a jury, have an officer come in and testify, have them spend all that time, and frankly, they probably spent tens of thousands of dollars to prosecute me, and force them to go through with it, rather than me just taking a plea deal for, the made-up crime of littering by dropping a paperclip.
So the soft-headed jury convicted you, but then didn't the judge fine you $1 or something like that?
It was the minimal, which was $190, which is court fees. So yeah, that sucked, but I would have paid out money not doing all of that, and wouldn't have had the satisfaction of knowing that the government had to go through the trouble.
Do you think there's any point, would there have been any point to say to the highway patrolman is giving me a ticket, you're sworn to serve and protect, you're serving and protecting no one, as there is no documentation that I've done anything that is unsafe? Is there any point in that, or is that just being a pain in the ass?
I think where you went wrong based upon your story was telling the police officer anything. Don't say anything. Don't try to make it, and don't try to explain to the officer what happened. Don't say, well, look, I was using the voice texting. I wasn't doing that, because now all of a sudden you've admitted certain things, and then they can twist it, as Joe was pointing out, with the vagueness of the law. He can now take that and go, well, no, see, this is how the law is applied here. If you just don't say anything, now he has to prove that you, A, used your cell phone,
So I could have said I was holding my cell phone and singing a song.
Don't say anything.
Don't say anything.
Don't say anything. Give them your license and registration. And
what's your name, sir? Where are you going?
But once you're pulled over, you're being detained on the suspicion of a crime, and you have to provide that.
A crime.
But, and see, that's the other thing. I always like to point out that I'm a convicted lawbreaker. I'm not a criminal in any sense of the word.
Well, and well said. So, Ben, listen, I did my level best to describe the scenario in fairly concise terms that people could comprehend about the giant state, its need for money, how they make up laws so they can take your money to finance it, and they turn everybody into lawbreakers, et cetera, the Atlas Shrugged thing. Did I miss anything? How would you sum it up as a guy who spends his life stewing about this sort of thing?
No, I thought those Atlas Shrugged quotes were perfect regarding the situation. I mean, there are so many laws, the government has lost track of how many laws there are.
Right. Well, and as I think, well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, there's a department devoted to it on the federal level of just cataloging all laws, and they lost track like 10 years ago.
And as greater thinkers than me, Tim Sandifer, for instance, and others have pointed out the timeless principle of ignorance of the law is no excuse and every good citizen should know the law is now completely impossible. It's been rendered a joke.
Well, two things. First off, that ignorance of the law is no excuse. The quote specifically is in reference to natural law. The idea of, you hurting someone and not knowing that was wrong isn't an excuse. So it's a natural law reference. The other thing is there's a great...
Well, I've heard it said by law enforcement officials.
Yeah, it's become something else, Ben, so the origin of it is interesting.
I know, but because people misuse it.
Right.
Like the fire in a crowded theater, people misuse it.
Right.
But the other thing is there's a great book called 3 Felonies a Day. There are so many laws that the average individual commits about 3 felonies every day. We are all felons. We are all criminals. And it's just a matter of the government turning its attention on you and wanting to put you in jail for something. That's all it's a matter of. You're a criminal, quote unquote, and all it is the government deciding they don't like you anymore. 3
felonies a day. That's interesting. We'll have to look that up. Vince, don't let me forget to look that up. Would you produce me remembering that? Yeah, hey, thanks, Ben. All right, keep fighting the good fight. One
interesting angle is I was driving through the Hood, which isn't far here from the radio station here on my way home because it's faster to go home that way to get to the interstate. But it's a bad area of town where they probably use any excuse they can to pull people over because they're much more likely to find you drunk or stoned or driving without a license or whatever it is that they're looking for. I don't know if that plays into it at all. Me getting pulled over for voice texting without a hands-free. How about the fancy cars that got voice recognition and everything? Turn up the air conditioner. Is that against the law? And if it's not, why not? How is that any different than a voice texting? I'm a
radio freak. I listen to a lot of radio. There are some stations that don't have pre-programmed, so I got to dial them up.
Right.
Missed it by 2. Chick. Whoa, missed it again. There it is.
Is a GPS device I hold in my hand, which is my phone, against the law? But if it's on your car dash, it's illegal? I don't actually know that.
Well, what if you're using it as a GPS device? Because GPS devices aren't illegal. So if you're using your phone as a GPS device entirely, well, it doesn't.
I often do.
That's the thing.
I often do.
It doesn't matter. So go to court, spend a day, fight it.
I'm getting the sense that if you have the phone in your hand at all, that is the problem, which, of course, is crazy because of all the other things we have in our hand.
Sure.
I mean, half the people driving right now have a Starbucks cup in their hand. That makes no sense.
Someone called in with the website tickenassassin.com. Lots of good information, including that you used to have the right to a jury trial for traffic citations. And the state used to offer free legal advice to traffic citations. They took both of those away. But there's a step-by-step guide to fight a ticket.
We've got it linked at ArmstrongandGettyRadio.com. I was hoping this was Bob Dylan.
Who is this?
Bob Seger.
Bob Seger.
The other Bob.
Been wearing the Jesus hair since the 70s. I suppose he can sing Christmas songs. You're listening to the Armstrong and Getty Show.
To set free